For 700 years, the Byzantine Empire wielded a weapon that burned on the surface of the sea. Its enemies captured ships, siphons, and even the substance itself, yet they could never reproduce it. The recipe was guarded so jealously that, when the empire faded, the secret of Greek fire vanished with it. Greek fire was an incendiary weapon used by the Byzantine Empire from the 7th to the 14th centuries. What made it extraordinary was its ability to burn on water, turning it into a devastating naval incendiary. Byzantine sailors would hurl grenades loaded with the substance onto enemy ships, or spray it from tubes across the waves. Rival powers, watching their fleets dissolve into flame, tried again and again to copy the material, and failed every time. The recipe itself was a closely guarded state secret, and that secrecy would become as legendary as the weapon. The term Greek fire has been common in English and most other languages only since the Crusades. The Byzantines themselves never used that name. In their sources, it appears under a variety of titles, each capturing a different quality of the substance. They called it sea fire and Roman fire, war fire and liquid fire. They also named it sticky fire and manufactured fire, hinting at its clinging, artificial nature. These names alone tell us it was a liquid, made by human craft, and meant above all for the water. Incendiary weapons had scorched the battlefield for centuries before Greek fire was invented. The Greco-Roman world knew sulfur, petroleum, and bitumen mixtures, incendiary arrows, and pots of combustibles ringed with spikes or hurled by catapults. Thucydides records that at the siege of Delayum in 424 BC, a long tube on wheels blew flames forward using a great bellows. A treatise called the Kestoi, from around the late 2nd or early 3rd century AD, even preserves a recipe for an automatic fire, a city mixture of sulfur, asphalt, resin, and quicklime that would ignite under the heat of the midday sun. And in naval warfare, Emperor Anastasius I was advised by a philosopher from Athens to burn a rebel's ships with sulfur. The ground was already prepared for something more terrible still. Greek fire proper was developed around the year 672. The chronicler Theophanes the Confessor ascribes it to Kallinikos, an architect from Heliopolis in Syria, who fled to the Romans and brought with him a sea fire that ignited Arab ships and burned them with all hands. It arrived at a desperate hour. Weakened by long wars with Sassanid Persia, the Byzantines had watched Syria, Palestine, and Egypt fall to the Muslim conquests, and now the enemy set out to seize Constantinople itself. Yet historians caution against a single inventor. Theophanes elsewhere mentions fire-carrying ships before Kallinikos arrived, and James Partington thought the weapon was likely refined by chemists in Constantinople, heirs to the old Alexandrian school. Whatever its true origin, it came exactly when the empire needed it most. Greek fire was used to great effect against the Muslim fleets, helping repel the Arabs at both the first and second sieges of Constantinople. In later battles against the Saracens, its use grew sporadic, but it still secured victories during the Byzantine expansion of the late 9th and early 10th centuries. It proved decisive in civil war as well, when the Central Imperial Fleet crushed the rebellion of the Thematic fleets in 727 and the rising of Thomas the Slav in 821 to 823. It devastated the Rus raids on the Bosporus in 941 and 1043, and during the Bulgarian War of 970 to 971, fire-carrying ships blockaded the Danube. So vital was the weapon that its discovery was credited to divine intervention. Emperor Constantine Porphyrogenitos, writing to his son and heir Romanos II, warned him never to reveal the secrets of its composition. The fire, he claimed, had been shown and revealed by an angel to the first Christian Emperor Constantine, who was bound to prepare it only for Christians and only in the imperial city. As a warning, the emperor told of an official, bribed into handing some over to enemies, who was struck down by a flame from heaven as he approached a church. Yet the Byzantines could not fully prevent capture. The Arabs took at least one fire ship intact in 827, and the Bulgars seized siphons and quantities of the substance itself around 812 to 814. It was never enough to copy. The obsession with the formula has long overshadowed a deeper truth. Greek fire was a complete weapon system. It required the specialized drum and ships that carried it, the device that heated and pressurized the substance, the siphon that projected it, and the trained siphonarioi who wielded it. Knowledge was deliberately compartmentalized, so that no single operator understood the whole. This is why, when the Bulgarians captured 36 siphons and even the substance itself in 814, it could make no use of them. Anna Komnene later left a vivid partial recipe. Resin from pine trees rubbed with sulfur, packed into reed tubes, and blown out with violent breath to fall like a fiery whirlwind on enemy faces. Because secrecy was so absolute, the composition of Greek fire was lost forever and remains a source of speculation. Early scholars guessed at saltpeter, imagining an early gunpowder from the descriptions of thunder and smoke. But saltpeter does not appear in European or Middle Eastern warfare before the 13th century. Others proposed quicklime reacting with water or calcium phosphide made by boiling bones in urine, but experiments failed to reproduce the intensity described. Most modern scholars now agree that Greek fire was based on crude or refined petroleum mixed with resins, comparable in composition to modern napalm. By the time the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople in 1203, no record confirms its use, perhaps because the empire had disarmed, lost access to its ingredients, or because the secret itself had simply faded into history. Greek fire endured for 7 centuries as much through silence as through flame, a secret so well kept that it outlived the very empire that wielded it. Perhaps the greatest weapon was never the fire at all, but the discipline that hid it. If this story drew you in, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more journeys into the mysteries of the past.